The Long Drive is the video game equivalent of a half-remembered fever dream scrawled on a post-it note at 3 a.m. The Long Drive feels like what would happen if Hideo Kojima and David Lynch were to take an unspecified amount of some illicit substance and then attempt to adapt the opening scene of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas into a video game using only a 2013 MacBook Pro. Known to its positive reviewers as not good and its negative reviewers as good, I'm not necessarily here to tell you that you, dear viewer, will like The Long Drive. I'm simply here to tell you that I like The Long Drive. The Long Drive is a bizarre open-world vehicle exploration game which has been in early access since 2019. According to their early access statement, which was last updated 2 years ago, we are making pretty good progress. But if we want a polished and excellent product, we need to stay at least for a year or maybe a year and a half in early access. It would be nice to get to the full version by the end of 2023, edit, or 2024. Well, now it's 2026. The progress has been slow, with just one update in the middle of 2025 asserting that the work was, in fact, still going. How do I even discuss a game like The Long Drive? Do I judge it based on the content it has enabled? Do I factor in the blatant ripoff that slapped a high-res coat of paint on the jank for almost twice the price? Or do I fixate on the fact that its current rendition is old enough to be in first grade? Entire other games have come and gone in the span that it took The Long Drive to add milk. I'm personally no stranger to spending more time than is reasonable on creative projects, but I also don't ask you for $15 to watch my unfinished videos. It's not necessarily an easy sell. If you like weird shit, this is some weird shit. So if you go and buy it, please don't come crying into my comments like, that was some weird shit. It being some weird shit is the primary reason I have any interest in recommending it or talking about it to anyone. Right off the bat, first impression, get this out of the way, this game does not look good. There are non-ugly parts of it, beautiful ones even, but overall the visual experience rests somewhere between unsettling and unfinished. But games don't have an obligation to be beautiful. In fact, ugliness can often be a unique, defining part of a game's artistic expression, though I must acknowledge that the other games I would make that point on behalf of are, finished. There are simple survival elements in The Long Drive. In addition to a health bar, your character can get hungry and thirsty, and on the other side of the screen, Death Stranding only has a P button. Each run begins in the same layout of house, placed in one of the 3 available biomes. In the garage sits a random rusty but functional vehicle with just enough gas nearby to get you started. And side note, one thing I didn't learn about until late in the process of this video when I tried to quickly re-roll starts to get a new car is that won't work because apparently which car you start with is determined by the system time on your computer. So if you want a specific car, you need to start your save at a specific time of day. In the nooks and crannies of the house are the pieces of a starter kit of useful items. Binoculars, a flashlight, a pellet blaster which only fires one shot at a time and reloads like this, but is better than nothing, additional liquid containers featuring water, oil, diesel, alcohol. There are also ornaments, paints, and cleaning supplies which you can use to add a dash of color to your ride. Scattered around the starter home's wider grounds are the pieces to a motorcycle which you can take the time to reassemble if that's more appealing to you. Also worth noting, in the well out back there's a magic broom that you can use to fly, which doesn't quite fit with the whole driving thing, but it's a lot of fun to mess around with, and if you don't like it, just don't jump down that well. There's a wide selection of vehicle types you can encounter, made up of swappable modular parts. Full disclosure, I don't know shit about cars. When I was a kid, my dad had a 1991 Mitsubishi Galant, which lasted about as long as it took my parents to realize that renting a vehicle for the trips we occasionally took was infinitely cheaper than paying New York City garage prices. So for that reason, weirdly enough, the one vehicular experience I relate to more than any other is taking a trip in an unfamiliar car. Until you were rolling out of the dealership, you wouldn't quite know what you would be spending a good chunk of your vacation in. While there was generally a prerequisite cleaning by the company, there was always something that smelled like somebody else, or a stain, or stuff. And The Long Drive embodies that very specific vibe in a nostalgic way for me. But when I first loaded it up, I nearly quit and refunded it immediately. I had known to expect some jank going in, but the first seconds were so inaccessible and off-putting that it felt like some sort of elaborate prank. My run was essentially over a half-mile down the road from where I started. And that could have been the end of things. But instead, maybe because I'm mentally ill, I interpreted that mountain of jank as a call to action. I was just an ordinary man, thrown into a strange and unfamiliar world that wouldn't cater to my whims about things like basic animations and realistic physics. The more it pushed me away, the more I wanted to learn its secrets. I restarted, packed my car, then scanned the horizon. Peeking out from behind a plateau was what looked like a massive shipwreck. Ships need fuel. I need fuel. So I forewent the road and drove straight into the desert. I underestimated the distance. Things are genuinely far apart in this game, and I found the light fading before I could even call myself close to my destination. I attempted to continue in a straight line, but naturally got turned around and couldn't quite right myself. The next morning, I just barely completed my pilgrimage with a gas meter that told me this might be a one-way trip. But as I approached the slashed belly of this out-of-place maritime vessel, I found that my gamble had paid off. Among the barrels littering the ground inside, I was able to find a decent amount of mostly undiluted fuel. I filled my tank as much as possible, stuffed the rest in the trunk, and once again scanned the horizon. Is that a spooky mansion with a graveyard? It looked far, but with my mostly full tank, I was able to approach exploration with a newfound confidence, and my real The Long Drive could finally begin. I drove from location to location to location to the same location again. Eventually, the fear of the unknown melted into a comfort and ease, and then I got bored. There are technically 19 discoverable points of interest, but some of them have more to interact with than others, and unfortunately, even with how spread out everything is, they ran out of options faster than I'd have liked. Off the top of my head, here are some locations that I think could be interesting to add: a plane crash, a drive-in movie theater, a motel, a cavern in the wilderness, a small home on a hill with a bunker underneath it. To enjoy this game is to accept an inherent level of jankiness anyway, so why not slap together a few more points of interest to pad things out? There are plenty of vehicles and parts and knickknacks, but the limited selection of buildings is, in my opinion, what really holds this game back. And on a similar note, one point where the janky physics lose their charm is when it comes to packing. Part of the joy of exploration is discovering knickknacks and bringing them with you, so I wish it didn't drive the physics engine so crazy when I put things in my car. Even the most carefully packed item is just one speed bump away from rattling around out of control and messing everything else up with it. And if it's a larger object, it could even wind up glitching through your car and requiring an extended pit stop or even a reload from the last save point. There are two types of enemies, bunnies and cannibals, and both of them are simultaneously ridiculous and so much scarier than they have any right to be. It feels like being in a nightmare, where you know what to do and technically you shouldn't be in danger, but as the threat draws nearer, you realize your hands don't work the way you thought and your legs are sluggish and confused. This never stopped being terrifying. It became repetitive eventually, but the nature of the game is such that you'll never quite feel like you're in control of the situation, and that's great. And I'd love to see them add a couple more enemies, or even just recolor the bunnies based on their biome in the meantime. But out of all the inexplicable gameplay systems and features in The Long Drive, there is one bit of flavor that stands out: the radio. Nearly every car has a radio with a full range of channels available, and while you can find a genre-spanning selection of generic but vibey music to underscore your adventure, there is also a variety of talk show programming, and all of those shows are hosted by one dude.
This is Jason, and you are listening to Chat Till You Die. Angry Greg's Rage Radio, FM 96.6. Übermensch Radio, FM 97.1. Kétütemű motorokhoz is ajánlott. Car oil. Use the extra virgin car oil. Available anywhere in the desert.
It's something that I wouldn't ever notice the absence of, but the fact that it's there is integral to the vibe of this game. Details like that, or the way that zooming in pops your character's eyes out of their head, serve as unifying elements, deliberately absurd, an indication that this world is as it should be. You're just new here. But just like the points of interest, I wish there was even more to hear. If you're going to have one guy riffing on all the channels, keep expanding on that. If every time I hopped in my car there was a good chance of hearing a new segment over dozens of hours, that would be a great counterbalance to the repetitive exploration. And from what I can glean on the update side, it does seem like a lot of work has been going towards making multiplayer function, but Reeves and I tested it, and I would not recommend this game for its multiplayer at this current time. All I'm saying is that in the meantime, I would love to see other simpler elements expanded on and fleshed out. The early access statement on the Long Drive's Steam page is funnier with each passing year, but I would argue it doesn't outright lie. It's more of a time capsule of the starry-eyed optimism of a dev team whose working product is struggling to keep up with their initial 2019 pitch. However, even as the devs continue to come up short of their early ambitions, the slow trickle of content we have gotten has shaped this undeniably sparse experience into a bizarre sandbox that I just keep feeling compelled to pick at. Kinda like a scat. I cruise down the highway smoking a cigarette. I catch a glimpse of my glowing embers in the dark reflection, and for a second I'm hit with an intrusive thought about that time I accidentally ate my own poop. I turn the radio up. In that moment, it clicks. The game captures a familiar, solitary calm, the gentle, cozy focus of a late-night road trip. I could drive like this for hours, and the game would probably let me. Maybe. Watch out for the rocks. I really liked that part. And if you pick the game up, maybe on sale, you just might too. If you enjoy the channel, like, comment, and subscribe, or else YouTube won't show anyone our hard work. And stay tuned for more videos about games. But until next time, I'm Jamie. Thanks for watching Standard Gaming.